This is the most people we've had in church in months. It's a day of great joy. Even if we had public Mass all these many months, this would still be a day of great joy. And so on behalf of Father Robert Duck, our associate pastor, Deacon Tom Cabine, our other deacons, Alessandro Calderoni, who's our seminarian, who'll be with us all summer, what a great joy to welcome you children, first and foremost, on this day of your first communion, parents, and many extended family and friends who have joined us. It is an honor to have you here on this very important day. We might ask ourselves, why is today so important? Now, you kids, you've been learning all year long about what an important day this is. You've been learning about not just how to go to Mass or how to receive communion, but also what it is, or better said, who it is that we are receiving here today. This is a big deal for you, for your families, and for our whole parish. Because starting today, kids, and for the rest of your lives, when you come to Mass, you have the privilege to receive Jesus in the Eucharist. Now, kids, we have a pretty beautiful church, right? Yeah. There's two things in this church that I want to point out to you that I think are very important for today. And we heard about them in the readings today. From 1 Corinthians, that was the second reading, and then from the Gospel of Mark. Now, I know you guys have all seen it, but I really want you to look at the altar and to look at this image in front of the altar. This is an image of the Last Supper. We just heard about it in the Gospel of Mark, that Jesus, on the night before he died, he gathered with his apostles, and he taught them. He washed their feet, their dirty, nasty feet, out of love. And then he did something even more important than that. Jesus celebrated the first Mass. Now, how many Masses have there been since then? Billions. But what we're doing here today on this altar is what Jesus did 2,000 years ago with his apostles, and we see that image here on the front of our altar. Jesus gathered with his friends. He took bread, broke it, and gave it to them. And he said these famous words. You guys have heard it a bunch of times through your whole life. Take this, all of you, and eat of it. And he took the chalice, and he said, take this, all of you, and drink from it. And then he said some of the most profound words in the history of the world. He said, this is my body. This is my blood. And then to make sure that they would keep it going, he said to them, do this in memory of me. And so they did. Starting with that first Mass, the apostles, his first priests, they then went out to the whole world. And they took with them the Holy Mass. They took with them the Eucharist. And so when Jesus said to them, take this, all of you, and eat of it, Jesus also had in his mind you. You. And he had in mind May 23rd, 2020. Now, maybe he had in his mind May 2nd, 2020, which was the day we were supposed to do this. Maybe he had in mind, I want them to come to Mass that day in their beautiful dresses and their beautiful suits. And let's put everybody in masks. Maybe not. But Jesus had in his mind you and the day that you would come forward, that you would receive him in the Eucharist. All right, so that's one beautiful piece of our church, this altar, depicting for us, showing us the Last Supper, the first Mass. The other part of our church that I want to point out to you is all the way up here. And it's this. This beautiful gold box, we call it a tabernacle. And notice where it is in the church. Right in the middle. When you walk in these doors and you look up and you look forward, what attracts your attention? This gold box, the tabernacle. And if you came here for the first time, you might notice, what's that red candle up above the tabernacle? That red candle up above the tabernacle says that Jesus is here. That Jesus, his body, his blood, his soul, his divinity are right in there. And so when we come in to the church, before we go into our pew, we go down on one knee, we genuflect. And we do that not to the ceiling, not to the altar, not to anything else. We do that because the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, Jesus Christ, is here. Now here's the best part. In just a few minutes, when Father Robert and the deacon and I, when we come up and we celebrate the liturgy of the Eucharist, right here on this altar, and then you, kids, you come forward and you receive Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. You are going to be one of those. You are going to become a tabernacle. Who's in there? Jesus. Physically present. Who's about to be inside of you? Jesus. Physically present. Now, what I don't want to recommend is after Mass, everybody genuflecting to each other. We don't want to do that. But you are going to be a living, breathing, walking tabernacle. You will receive Jesus into your body. What happens to food when it comes into our body? Right? If you eat an apple, you eat that apple, it goes down your esophagus into your stomach, and then you know what that does? It digests, and then that apple goes into every part of your body. The same is true of Jesus in the Eucharist. When you receive him, he comes into you and goes into every part of your body to feed you and to give you strength. So why is this such an important day? Because that's what you're about to do. For the first time, but not the last time. For the first time, you get all dressed up. We're going to take your picture. All your family and friends are here. But then what's going to happen is, going forward, Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, we won't make as big a deal about it. But it's still a really big deal. Because Jesus is going to be living in you. So we come here to celebrate. We come here as your friends, as your parents, as your grandparents, your brothers and sisters, your priests and your deacons. We come here because of Jesus, so that you can receive him, so that we can receive him, so that we can become more like him. So congratulations on this, your special day. Congratulations as you receive Jesus for the first time. And now, strengthened by the Lord Jesus, our prayer is that each of you, children, each one of you, that you become saints, that you live good and holy lives, that you become the young men and women that the Lord has called you to be. As we celebrate this Eucharist, may God be with us, may God strengthen us, and for you kids, for the first time, may God feed you with the bread of life.